Hello, friends. Welcome. This is Patty Bennett, and we have some fun things to do today. I hope you are excited. We're going to be coloring with Stampin Blends. I have so many Stampin Blends out, ready to color. I've got tons of images ready for you to see how I color them. And I am just going to give everybody just a moment to join live. So if you see the red live button up here, you found me live on Facebook on my business page. And that's fabulous. I should be able to see your questions. Hi, Joni and Shirley, and I never know how to say it. Is it Brianna? I hope that's right. Karen and Jane and Tammy. Oh, yay. So happy that you are all joining me. So we have lots and lots. I've got a whole box full of things over here ready to show you. So we have lots of samples to go through. I just put a couple of them out here while you're all joining live. Brina, thank you. I think we went over that like a year ago or so, Brina, and I'm sorry I forgot. I love your name. I think it's so pretty. Hi, Doris in Tennessee. Hi, Lori and Michelle in San Diego. Oh my goodness, everybody, just so many people jumping on live. Yay! Oh, good. Donna has a sunny morning in Washington. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me. This is Patty Bennett. I blog at pattystamps.com, so I have something for you every day of the year on my blog, whether it's a tip, a video, a reminder, a sale, a Stampin' Up stamp card idea. I just try to give you so many ideas on my blog. I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator. If you are unfamiliar with Stampin' Up, these are the catalogs coming out in January. I have been a demonstrator for Stampin' Up! For over 25 years. So during that time, I have seen lots of catalogs come and go. And I can tell you that these new catalogs for 2021 are amazing. You're going to love them. If you don't have a demonstrator, you can go to my blog at pattystamps.com, and there is a button up at the top to request catalogs. And if you don't work with someone else, I'd be happy to help you, work with you, send you catalogs, help you with your orders and your projects and all that good stuff. All right, just looking at comments, want to make sure if there were any. I don't think there are any questions yet, but I'm just scrolling back. Jose and Holly, Tanya, Fran, Marion, Jeannie, so many people jumping on. Thank you so much for joining me. All righty. So we are going to talk about Stampin' Blends. I tried to get out some of the colors that I used, and I put them up here so that I wasn't constantly reaching over here in front of the camera where I keep my Stampin' Blends in front of me. So hopefully we'll have the colors that we used today handy. You might be wondering, well, how did you select which stamp sets we are coloring with today? I will tell you how I selected them. A couple of weeks ago, I had blog candy on my blog. I offered a mini paper trimmer, and to enter to win, all you had to do was tell me 3 stamp sets that you wanted me to use for a Stampin' Blends coloring tutorial. I went through those comments, so there was about 450 suggestions, and I went through and I tried my best to make a list of the stamp sets you requested the most. One of the highest requests was this cute gnome for the holidays. So I stamped a few of those to get those ready. And the set is just really cute. It has these 3 cute gnomes and their little hobbit house and some fun greetings. So we're going to color those, as well as lots of other sets that were requested. Now, I want to tell you something before we start that. Actually, there were some sets that were very highly requested, and I didn't really know how I would use them with blends. So this actually was one of the highest requested stamp sets to use with a Stampin' Blends tutorial. When you stamp these images, I really don't feel that they need to be colored with Stampin' Blends. These two samples will be on my blog soon, next week. I just stamped them with Stampin' Up! Ink, and like I said, I don't think they need to be blended with blends. You could try that, but yeah, I didn't feel that this was needed to be stamped with blends. So I just wanted to tell you, even though this was one of the most requested sets, I didn't do it with blends, and that's why. This was another requested set, as was the dry brush background. Again, these are sets that I just think that you would stamp with ink, and I don't see a reason to use blends. But it gave me a good opportunity to tell you that you would not want to use Stampin' Blends on your rubber or on photopolymer. It would be like using a Sharpie marker. So even though I am not using these with blends, I thought maybe this was a good opportunity to go over that with you. This too was requested to stamp with blends. I guess you could stamp this one and then color in, but that's what this image is for. This is meant to color these in. So I just wanted to tell you why I elected not to use Stampin' Blends on some of the most requested sets. And I decided to use the sets that have outline images such as these, and to show you my tips for stamping with Memento ink and then coloring in with the Stampin' Blends. So to me, that's what I think of with Stampin' Blends. I want an outline image. I call it maybe a coloring book image. You know, when we were kids and we'd have a coloring book and it had all outline images, and you'd want to use crayons. Well, like back, I'm dating myself, but back then it was the 64 pack of Crayola crayons. Like, there was no better gift, at least for me. So yeah, that's what I call like a coloring book image. And then you would want to stamp it in black and color it in. Speaking of black, you want to use Memento Tuxedo Black ink when using your blends. This will not smear. I personally like, this is the thick Whisper White. You can tell just by the way it sounds here. This is the thick. That is my preference. And Stampin' Up, back in the beginning when blends came out, they recommended thick. So that's just what I've always used. If it bleeds through to the background, you know you're coloring correctly. Not background, but the back side. You know you're coloring correctly. You're adding enough ink. So those are just sort of my little tips there. Memento Black ink, outline image, thick Whisper White. There we go. Now we're ready to color. Jennifer is asking, did I get the new mini emboss machine? Yes, I'm not going to do anything with that today, but yes, here it is. It is adorable. Tiny, small, light. Here are the plates. I love it. Demonstrators can get that on a pre-order this month. If you're watching me live, it is December. So in December 2020, demonstrators can get that. And then it will be available to customers in January. Joni says, what colors do I use the most? They're right here. These are my most used colors. I can't even get them all on the screen, can I? Can you see them all at once? I don't know if you can. These are my most used colors. As you can see, what is missing is mainly the purples. I am just not a huge purple person. So that's why they're missing from that. But there's nothing wrong with purple. I'm just saying, you asked my favorites, so there you go. Yes, Tammy says she coveted the 64 pack of crayons. Oh, totally, right? So a couple weeks ago, we did some coloring with Stampin' Blends. One of the things I told you was when you are using smaller images like this, you need to be very careful with not saturating the paper too much, because then you'll start to bleed. So I actually see now that I didn't even grab Granny Apple Green, which should have been in my most used colors. So I just wanted to show you a tip. When you are coloring, let's go with this cute little Christmas tree, and you want some darker color here where the tree overlaps itself. Like that, does that make sense? So I want it darker. So I'm going to add my dark first, maybe a little bit here on the side for a shadow. And then I'm going to color with my light. And I'm not going to go back and forth, dark and light, because it will bleed out of the borders. So I am just doing my best to give a little bit of blending on the edge, right where the dark and light meet. And there we have shadow. Is that close enough? Should I try to zoom in more? There you have dark and light, and it gives you that shadow effect without going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So again, if we went with the dark on the sides, and then I want to do the beard. I want to show you that. And pull it in towards the center with your light marker. And I'm using the bullet tip because this is a smaller area. And then when that starts to dry and blend into itself, you'll see that the dark is on the outside. It makes it look more rounded. Honey, is that you? I hope so. I thought my husband left, and then I just heard someone come in the door. So that kind of scared me for a moment. Oh dear. But I want to show you a couple. Oh, zoom in a little. Hopefully I can do this without messing anything up. Okay, I think that zoomed. So somebody let me know if that's a little better. I wanted to show you just a couple of tips for the beards. This one I think I kind of like better. I think that turned out pretty well. What I like to do with that is, let's see. So this is dark smoky slate. So I'm just going to kind of do some brush strokes, almost like hair. Well, I mean, because that's what it is, right? So that was dark smoky slate. And let's do a little bit of dark gray granite. Again, we're just kind of making it look like some hair. We're leaving some light right there, right in the middle. And then I have light gray granite. And I'm just going to blend just a little bit. And this will give me that illusion of kind of some darks and some lights and some texture. And I don't know, is that making sense? You can kind of see that it not just a plain color. It's got some lights and darks and some texture, and it almost just kind of looks like hair. So I think that is helpful when you're doing any kind of hair, is to use kind of those brush strokes. And this hat, I just wanted to give you a couple tips on that. So I have, let's do the, let's do shaded spruce. Well, I didn't do shaded spruce on that one, but let's see how this, I'll show you some tips. So if you do the dark over on this side where the darker part would be, and then don't be afraid to turn your paper if it's easier for you to color in a certain direction. Okay, so I'm kind of blending and pulling the dark this way, and then I can go with my brush tip. How about brush tip? And just kind of lightly put some color on the lighter side, and that will give me this illusion of darker where the shadow is, where it's going around, and lighter over here. So that's a different color, but you get the idea, I think. I hope. Oh, thank you, the faux fur. Thanks, Gay. So that gives you some ideas with your smaller images, using the smaller tip, and then using some darks and lights to give it some shadows. And you can see here, this one that we did before, how it's darkening and lightening, and it's just giving you that rounded effect. I hope that helps on some of those smaller images. And that again is the Gnome for the Holidays stamp set. Let's look at, I might have to zoom back out. You're going to have to let me know if this is too zoomed in, if this is a problem at all. Okay, what I'll do, I can see over here that I am going to have to move this. We talked about this a couple weeks ago in my other live video, swatching colors. So when you have something like this milk jug here and you want to experiment with color, you can see I've used gray granite, smoky slate, black, crumb cake, and suede. So I think I can put that right there. I think you can see all of that. So this one would be the granite, the slate, and the black, and then this one would be the crumb cake and the soft suede. And I'll show you some tips on how I did that. But I do think it's really important to make a swatch so that you know how the colors look and what they will look like when they're on the paper. I'm a big fan of swatching colors. So the pot, the milk jug, is in Country Home. And the flowers that I stamped on top of this one is this image from Jar of Flowers, and I feel like you can intermix Jar of Flowers and Country Home, and you can fill this jug with anything. You could even just, if you have a stamp set that just has like flowers on stems, you could stamp that as well. So let's do, I actually kind of, I don't know which one. Let's do this one. So let's get out, this is the soft suede, and let's get out, I think this is the crumb cake. Yes. And I always read it as well, because I don't want to all of a sudden find out that I grabbed the wrong color. A lot of the markers sort of look similar. So what I did on this one was I started with some dark color. So let's do the dark soft suede. I actually, let's do the bullet point. Sometimes I like to do the fine tip. Sometimes I like to do the broad tip, but it doesn't matter. Whatever you kind of like. And I'm not putting in too much of the really dark. It's just a tiny little bit. And then we're kind of pull that color in with the lighter. So this would be, yep, light soft suede. And what we're doing is we're blending that darker color into the paper and into, into the inside. I almost want to call it like melting the color in. So it's kind of like you're melting those two colors together. And I'm just sort of flicking it in towards the inside. That was the dark crumb cake. Now we'll do the light crumb cake, and we'll just, again, sort of melt those colors in together, and we're going to pull those in towards the center where I want there to be a lighter part. And like I said, don't be afraid to turn your paper. If you're more comfortable coloring with like your wrist in a certain position or the paper in a certain position, do not be afraid to just move the paper around. So now you can see how we've kind of got those darks, and it's coming in towards the light. We're leaving that light part. And then I am going to add a little more dark where I feel that there should be a little more shadow. Oh, forgot the very bottom, didn't we? Okay, so let's do that. Although I think you get the idea without me belaboring it, but it's okay. Okay, so now I'm just pulling, blending again. And then, since we don't want like this obviously big white stripe here, I'm going to very, very, very lightly just try to almost cover that with just some light strokes, just some very light strokes, but leaving just a little bit of the light. And then we have the darker on the outside, we have the lighter in the center, and then the very last thing you might want to do, we do have this color lifter. So if you feel like you want to give a little more blending to this, this is just going to kind of melt those colors in together and lighten and soften and pull a little bit of color out. It's kind of like a blender pen, but it's for Stampin' Blends. And you know, you can go back and you can keep fussing and you can keep adding and you can keep putting color, or you can step away and you can say, okay, I'm gonna let it sit for a minute. And that's really what you need to do. But that's how I do sort of these rounded images, is start on the outside with dark and keep blending towards the center. And at the very end, if you want to take the color lifter and just do a little kind of a squiggle like I did, you can do that. So any questions on that image or that sort of that, oh, hearts. Okay, that's good. Beautiful. Okay, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So again, that is Country Home for this milk jug pot. You can use the images in this set to fill them, or you can do what I did and mix and match and go to Jar of Flowers and add flowers like that. One thing we did talk about in our Stampin' Blends video a couple weeks ago was darks and lights. And I really like, can you see here how I've got some darker Mango Melody and some lighter Mango Melody, and then I've got the dark green behind the light yellow, and it's that contrast of dark and light. I really like that. I think that really helps to make images be a little more realistic looking. Okay, the next one we're going to do is this Nativity, and it's from the set called Peaceful Nativity. And I really love this set. It does have dies to match, so you could die cut these images out, which I would recommend, and probably put this onto sort of a night sky background. I was going to be brave, and I was going to color in this whole background, and I was like, no. I think I will just die cut these and put them on a card with a darker background. I might use my new blending brushes. I think that would be kind of fun to do a background, but I'm not going to do it over this. So I'll die cut these and I'll use these on a separate piece, and then I'll layer them into a card. So again, I swatched colors that I thought would be fabulous for this. And I'm going to cut this apart since we are so zoomed in. I'm going to cut this and do this side by side for you, so that we can kind of see a finished one, and then we can see the tips that I have for this. So I'm just going to let the video catch up with me to make sure that I've got these both. Yeah, you can see those both. Okay. So let's see, what should we, let's do Mary's robe. Let's do that. I used, you can see the colors that I swatched. So Seaside Spray and Misty Moonlight, I think, are a fabulous combination. I love these two colors together. We talked a lot a couple of weeks ago on my previous video about not just using the dark and the light of one color, but combining it so that you actually have 4 shades. And I really like that. I think this is a fun technique. So I would just start with lightly, and I kind of am doing like almost, I want to say like scratchy motions. And I want to show you, I'm going to hold it up close, that it is not 100% filled in. I want to leave some light spots. That was light Seaside Spray. Then we'll use the dark Seaside Spray and kind of go over where the artist already has darker images. And for instance, back here, this I think is part of her head scarf. So I'm going to make that a little darker. And then inside her sleeves, we know that would be darker. It would be darker under here where this hay is going on top of her robe. And then I'm using the light Misty Moonlight. Again, those areas where I know it's going to be dark. Just dabbing in some dark color. Let's see, back here, her head scarf would be dark. So do you see that? Just by using those 3 colors, we've got some lights and darks going on. And yes, it looks splotchy, but that's why you go back to your lightest color and you start going over and blending in the lights and the darks, but not going 100% on everything. You want to leave some areas that you know will be light. So now we have blended that together, and as that dries and soaks into the paper, it will give you a really good light and dark contrast. And that was just the 3 colors. I think actually right in here, inside of her sleeve, I'm going to add some of this dark. Misty Moonlight. Yes. So just a tiny bit. And that is going to give that real lifelike illusion with the lights and the darks. I did the same on Joseph's robe. I used real red and then just like a touch of cherry cobbler for the darker parts. And it's funny, I'm looking over here on my iPad, and this looks really kind of splotchy, but I assure you, in person, this really looks realistic. It looks really good with the lights and the darks. So hopefully, you're not seeing exactly what I'm seeing on my iPad. It looks very funny on the iPad, but in real life, this looks really realistic with the lights and the darks. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this? I elected to go with greens on the top of the manger, not knowing if this would be more like real green boughs of greenery or if it would be more like hay. I really wasn't sure, but I elected to go with green. And then I've added some yellow into that, like as if it were drying out. You know, when greenery dries out, it gets that yellowy, orangey, coppery tone to it. I did the hay. You can see here my colors with the daffodil and the cider. And then all of the wood was crumb cake and cider. On the bottom here, I've added light crumb cake just for a little bit of shadowing. But like I was saying at first, I do think that I will die cut these with the matching dies and place them onto a background. So that probably won't end up showing in the long run. Any part of this that you would like to see colored? Any tips that you would like to see? I'm just going to pause a minute and let comments catch up to see if there's anything you'd like a demo on. It's funny how different this looks on my iPad. I don't know if, I hope it's not that odd on, on your screen. Let's see. I'm just waiting for comments just for a second to see if anybody had questions about any of the other images. I'm not seeing anything come through. I know comments are delayed, so I know it does take a minute, but hopefully that is helpful with some of these images. We're going to move on then to the next image. And this is from Forever Blossoms. So this was highly requested in that blog post when I asked you to let me know what you would like to see colored. And this image, I did a lot with my sponge daubers. I stamped it and I just daubed color, and that was really quick to do this. I actually had not colored it with Stampin Blends, but I did a couple of different combinations here. I went with these lighter colors, the flamingo, coral, saffron, and petal pink, to do more of a realistic cherry blossom look. But then I thought, well, we want to be versatile as well, and we want to be able to use stamp sets outside of what we normally think to use them for. And so I did one with cherry cobbler and real red. You could actually use this as like more of a Christmassy, a winter theme. But I think the lighter colors are a little more realistic. So that's what I thought I would do on this one. So we have petal pink, and we have So Saffron, and I have coral. Just making sure. I always double check. My Calypso Coral and Flirty Flamingo. So those were my colors for this one. And that's what I'm going to show you. So I kind of like to arrange them light to dark, and then I go from there. And like I showed you before, I like to start with light colors. So I am just going to give a background of light petal pink. And if you don't want to work as quickly as I am, you can do 1 or 2 flowers at a time. I tend to shade pretty quickly, and I can do all of these just kind of in one go. So what I'm doing here is dark petal pink, where I think I have some darker colors. And it's not that I'm like magical or I know anything, you know, more. It's just that I am looking at where the artist already has the shading, and I'm going with that. So it's not like I have to think too much. I like that I can just sort of say, oh, okay, they've got all the shading right there and there and there and there. So there we go. That's where I'm putting the next darkest color, which on this is my light Calypso Coral. Before I add, no, let's go ahead and add dark. We can do dark Calypso Coral. I was going to say I'm going to kind of blend some of this color, but we can add the dark first. So now I've got 4 colors. I've got 2 shades of petal pink, and I have got 2 shades of Calypso Coral. Now I'm going to go back to my lightest shade, which was the light petal pink, and I'm just going to start blending. And you do have to give this a minute to sink into the paper, to blend, for those colors to blend into each other. When I first started playing with Stampin' Blends, I would sometimes get to a point about like this, and I would say, oh, I don't like it, and I would throw it away. Don't do that. Let it sit a minute. Let the colors kind of blend together. Look at it. And then you can come back and you can do different things to it. So if you want to add a little more yellow, this is so saffron. This is dark saffron. So I'm going to put some yellow on those just to show you how adding yellow makes that like more orangey. Okay. If you want it to be more pink, you could use something like Flirty Flamingo. And you could color and blend with some Flirty Flamingo and maybe add a little bit of dark Flirty Flamingo there, just here and there. I like to be really loose with it. I am not like a super fussy, super minute, every little nook and cranny. I like to be loose with it. And then we'll blend that. So do you see that difference? This one looks more yellow toned because we put the saffron on it. This one I left with just the petal pink and a little bit of coral. This one we added the Flirty Flamingo. Do you see all of those differences? So many different tones and looks just to that one flower by using these colors. Isn't that fun? This is what I love. I love playing with the colors and just making all these different looks and coming up with different feels to these. I hope you're enjoying this. I see a lot of people watching and a lot of people with hearts and thumbs up, but I don't see any questions. So I hope this is making sense. I hope so. Let's quickly add color to these leaves. My favorite with, excuse me, almost choked myself, with this palette is the Granny Apple Green. And again, since we have a small area, I would just start with dark, put dark down here where I feel that it's going to be darkest, and then I would use my light and pull that color, blend it. I really need to turn this. Pull that dark color and blend so that we have lights and darks. And then I would use my bullet tip to fill in the stems. I would add a little bit of the darker where I think that flower is probably shading the stem. And that would be about it. That's how I would add the green for the leaves. And you can see how you get the lights and the darks. Oh, good. Thank you. Susan says my tips and steps are easy to follow and it makes sense. Thank you. This one is, I talked about this one. It's the cobbler and the red. Do I have trouble getting the caps off the pens? Nope, I don't. Probably because I use them so much. But even when they're new, no, I don't. Let's see. Okay, Renee is saying she feels like maybe her pens are too wet. I am not saturating my paper. Like, I am not adding color like this. I am barely adding color. There's a difference, and this will tend to want to bleed and it will feel very wet. If you use a very light hand and you just kind of scribble in color, to me, then they are not too wet. If yours are brand new, Renee, perhaps then they are really wet. Maybe you need to scribble off a little bit. I don't know, but I have not felt that mine are that wet, but that's a great question. Oh, you're welcome, Sue. Okay. Oh, good. Dawn said she had tried my idea for swatching color and it helped. Thank you. I really think that is the key, because when you look at these colors, your mind might just go like, what? What? And you wouldn't even know where to start. But when you put those colors, so I can put them just in order here. So there's petal, saffron, coral, and flamingo. When you do that, your eye can see where the lightest colors are, where the darker colors are, and what is going to work on your project. So I'm glad that was helpful. I love swatching colors. That's the fun of getting going for me. Oh, and the one to the far left, it's the exact same colors, but using them in different layers and using them in different amounts. So I did not add as much yellow, but I do have yellow on this one, no yellow up here, and just the petal on here. So yeah, same exact colors, just doing them in different layers. All right, so we can move along now. I hope you liked that. I think that is really fun to combine those colors like I did for you. All right, what's next up? Oh, Dress to Impress. Yes, this one had a lot of requests. This is a cute set, really easy to color in with blends, and a great opportunity to show you some shading as well. So Dressed to Impress, I've got the shoe and the lipstick to show you. I thought the red and the black was super cute. Really fun. This one, you may be surprised to know that we are using the basic black. So this is the dark black. Sorry, excuse my reach. I'm sorry. But they're all up there. There's the light black. And then I also used the gray granite. So here is dark and light gray granite. So those were my colors that achieved the black and the sort of the silver look. And if you want to make that look rounded, I think it's the same that we did that with the milk jug. So I'm going to just add a little bit of black, the dark black. I would use the light black sparingly because, I mean, this is black. This is really dark. And then I would go to my gray granite. This is the dark one. And we can go over that and pull it in towards the center. Again, turning my paper because my hand is more comfortable pulling it in towards the center that way. And then my light gray granite. And I think that I use Smoky Slate. See, I should have swatched this, right? I should have written those down, but I didn't. This is a good opportunity for me to tell you that you might think that you'll remember, and then all of a sudden you'll get to trying to reproduce it and you'll be like, oh my goodness, I don't even remember. And I think I've got a little bit more of the dark. Okay, here's a don't. I've added too many layers of color. Do you see how it just bled right outside the line? So in my neglect to swatch my colors over here, and adding 6 colors to this, it bled outside. So don't do that. Swatch your colors, remember what you used, and don't add so much color that it bleeds outside. So we're not going to continue on that one. Although I guess I could die cut or fussy cut that. But you can see how smooth it was up here because I didn't have that many layers of color. But we can work on the shoe. And I'll show you how I did just some dark black where I thought that would be darkest. And then we'll add a little bit of the light black. It's kind of funny to say light black because it really isn't, right? I mean, black is black, but there are actually 2 shades here. Okay, now I'm going to see. So I think this is what I must have used, the Smoky Slate. And I'm barely, going back to Renee's question about too much ink, I am barely touching this tip because this is a small image and I do not want this to bleed outside the lines. Barely adding. So you can see how it's darker down here and then lighter. And as this dries and soaks in, then it will blend and it will give you those nice shadows. Same thing here. So this would have been Real Red and Cherry Cobbler. No? Oh, see, I should have swatched them. I think this is Real Red and Poppy Parade. I went against my own suggestion by not swatching these. So this is dark Real Red. And then light, let me check. Oh, that's Poppy Parade. That's why you check. Light Real Red. I'm almost afraid to glance at the comments because you're probably laughing at me like, see, you should have swatched your colors. Yep, I should have. I should have. And then I can add some Poppy Parade, a little bit of dark, just to darken up. And if you really wanted to go darker, you can go to Cherry Cobbler because all three of those colors will work. And they will give you different shades. So I'm hoping that shows on camera. Yeah, okay, so Lynn is saying to use the lifter to push this color back in. That's too much color. It will not correct this. The color lifter is good for pushing color back in if you just have a little area that needs to be corrected. That's too much. So to salvage that, I would probably use my paper snips and fussy cut this out. Yeah. What color for gold? I would use Mango Melody for gold. And maybe a little bit of, we can swatch it, maybe a little bit of saffron. So I'll show you. Here's Mango. And then if we did just a little bit of saffron, I think between all of those, you could get a pretty good gold. Yeah, that's what I would do for gold. Okay. How do you know, Susie is asking, how do I know what colors work well together? So that's when I use all these swatch cards. So I keep these after I have worked on my project, and I have lots of these, and I just look and say, well, if I want to do like a more orangey red, I will add this to this. And it's just a matter of playing with color. My eye sees the purpley blues versus the green blues. And there's also blue greens. And there's also warm greens. There's cool and warm. And so I will separate that in my head. So here, we can see this. We can see that we have cool greens here. Excuse my reach if it's in the camera, I'm sorry. And we have warm greens here. So do you see the difference between the cool and the warm? I would not mix any of these with any of these. So I will pull only those cooler colors or the warmer colors. And that's what I would use on my project. So that's part of what my eye sees when I am pulling colors out to work on seeing what goes together in the same project. Hope that helped. Who was that? Let me look back here. Susie. Susie, I hope that helped. Okay, good. Gay says thank you. Perfect. Okay, Grace's Garden, and we only have a few more to go. Grace's Garden was another one that was highly requested to color with blends. I had previously posted this card. This was one that I had made months ago, and I did watercoloring on this one. These images are so little that I actually never even thought to use my blends because they're so small. There's not a lot of blending that you can do. It would be more a matter of just coloring with the blends. When your images are that tiny, you just really can't do like the lights and the darks very much, right? So I watercolored my Grace's Garden. That was one I had done a long time ago, but I used the blends because that was our challenge today, was to use blends. And you can see, really, I didn't have an opportunity to blend a lot of colors. It's more just like, okay, so I've got the Highland Heather, and I've got the grape, and I've got the mango, and I've got the mambo. And that was really all there was to that. It's not really blending. It's just coloring. And then in the background, to kind of make the white fence stand out, I'll show you what I did. This is Light Pool Party. And if you just color, I think we did this with the snowman on my previous video. If you color around something that is supposed to be white, which this fence doesn't have to be white, but I'm thinking, like white picket fence. So if you color around it, all of a sudden it appears to be more white. And I don't know if that's coming out on the video, but in person, it really makes the white stand out without doing anything to the white. Yeah, you can barely see that on my end over here, but in person, you can really see this. So then here, I just finished coloring in, and I don't really care so much about how that looks. I don't care for the way that that looks because of the streaks. So that is why on this set, I really preferred my watercoloring over the blends. But I tried it and I wanted to show you, and I sort of used just different colors to color in some ground on there. It's not my favorite, but since it was highly requested, I thought I would show you, and maybe this is a good way to see a difference in watercoloring versus blends on an image like this. Oh, okay, you can see it. Oh, good. And is that Jean or Jeanne? I don't know how to pronounce your name. I love your name. That's so pretty. But I'm glad you can see that. It's not really showing on my iPad very well. But yeah, so that is just a way to make white stand out. And you can do that around a snowman as well. So I'm not going to belabor this card because it's just like simple coloring. But it was highly requested, so I wanted to show you that. All right, next we have gift wrapped. This was requested a lot as well. And this is cute because it has all these outline images. And I don't know, I just keep like going back to my childhood thinking, oh, I would have loved to color these with my Crayola crayons, but I did them with the blends for you. And I thought this was actually really fun. This has a punch. You can see here that you can punch out this large bow with a punch. And on this one, I stamped in Real Red and I colored with Poppy Parade blends and a little bit of cherry cobbler to just give this some extra color. You can color on an image that's stamped in a colored ink. You can do that. Even though if you don't want it to bleed when it's black, you need to use Memento. So if you want it black, like these, you use Memento. If you want to stamp in color and color the color, you can. So here you can see that the trick is using lights and darks to really make this look rounded. If we were, let me show you the difference. Let me take Light Poppy Parade, And I'm just going to do it on this one because I want to also color that one for you. If you just colored the whole thing with one color, you will get a very, very flat looking image. And while there is nothing wrong with just coloring, I wanted to show you the difference of coloring with 4 colors and giving those lights and darks the opportunity to give a nice 3-dimensional looking image. All right, so there's just light poppy parade, very flat looking, right? Let's do this one. We'll mimic this, and I'll show you the difference then of giving this opportunity to have 4 colors. So here's our 4, our light and dark poppy. I'll just make sure. Light poppy, dark cherry, light cherry. Yep. So let's use those 4 colors to create this. Okay. So, okay. You said light pool party question mark. Yes, on the fence, it was light pool party. Oh, I see. You're answering each other. Perfect. Yes, it was light pool party is what I used. And you could do dark pool party if you wanted to, but I like the light because you can always add more color. You really can't take it away. All right. Just as we did on the milk jug, I am going to leave some areas of white at first because you really can't add white, but you can always darken. So we're adding our lightest Puppy Parade, and I'm leaving some areas white, and you'll see why. Okay, so there's our funny looking first coat, light Puppy Parade. Let's add dark Puppy Parade. And I'm not going to go over that whole area, just where I know that it is the darkest. Where one area is going to overlap another, where the image kind of goes around, that's where I'm adding one more layer. And really quickly, so back to Renee's comment about the markers feeling juicy. Yes, they are, but I am really barely touching to the paper. So there's 2 layers. There's adding the light and dark Poppy Parade. Now let's go to light Cherry Cobbler. This is where we can really start to add some dark shadows, darker than Poppy Parade. Bullet point, not adding a ton of color. And now dark Cherry Cobbler. Do you see that? I hope you can see these layers of color and these shadows starting to take shape here. Okay, I know it looks funny, but this is what I do to get different layers of color. Okay, do you see that? It's funny, right? It looks funny. Okay, how do I know where the shadow will go? So Angela, wait, before I answer you, let me just tell you what I'm doing. Now I'm blending those colors back towards the lightest area. Okay, and when I hit that lightest area, I'm barely, just barely feathering the color on. I am not coloring like this. I am just barely giving little brush strokes to feather these colors in towards the light. Okay, so now to answer your question, how do I know where is the light? So if you actually pick up an object that's rounded and you look at how it's darker as it like cups away from you. It's lighter where the light hits it. It's darker where one thing covers another. So if you have something on top of something, then it's going to be darker below. So that's what I use in my mind as my guide for lights and darks. Okay, and I'm not going to leave these white, but I'm just showing you that now I've brought the darks towards the center to where it's going to be the lightest, because this is like kind of a high point. This is where the light is going to hit it. And back here is where it's darker. So this is a good example right here. Do you see how that's darker? Because it's in the shadow of this top loop. And then super lightly, I'm just going to fill in about 90% of where that white was. And just let those colors do their magic. And as that sits, it's going to, like blend together. It's going to seep into the paper, and it's going to end up almost identical to this. I think I did it pretty close. But it looks shiny. Kay says it looks shiny. It almost does. And of course, we could add our Wink of Stella. Hang on, let me just get this. Oops. Whoa. Okay, hang on. I shouldn't have squeezed that hard. Holy business. We can add Wink of Stella, and we can make the whole thing look really shiny. It'll look like one of those kind of plasticky acetate kind of bows, like the kind that you can actually put outside, the weatherproof ones. Oh, that's so pretty. I don't know. Hope you could see that in person. It is so sparkly, and it looks really super 3D and pretty. That's the Wink of Stella. So then over here, same idea. And that is just, I wrote it here, daffodil and mango, because we talked about coloring with more than one shade. And look how close those are. But you do, put them light to dark here. But you do get 4 shades of yellow when you do something like that. This is Seaside and Misty Moonlight, which we did that. Oh, that was on Mary's Robe on the Nativity set. So same idea, just adding the darks where it's darker and leaving the lighter colors where it's lighter. And then we can go back to this where I started and showed you if you just color one color, that's just light Poppy Parade, you can see the difference, I hope you can, of lights and darks and sort of that whole 3D type of image. Can you see that? I hope you can. Hope you can. All right. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Let's move on because we still have a couple more. Oh no, last one. Gosh, we've already gone an hour. This is crazy how fast this can go. Whiskey Business was one of the most popular requests on that blog post out of your 450 comments of requests for what to color with Stampin' Blends. And I had actually done this before, but this is a good opportunity for me to do it with this video because this is a little intimidating. Like, number 1, how do you color glass? Number 2, how do you color liquid? Yeah, a little intimidating. So again, I swatched what I thought. I know nothing about alcohol, but I tried to envision daffodil, saffron, mango, pumpkin, Cajun. That's what I thought I might use. I wasn't sure, so I swatched them. And for the glass, I wasn't sure. We talked about warm and cool, and the balmy is a little different tone than the Seaside. This is very cool. This is sort of in the middle. This goes towards the warmer, towards the green. So I did all 3 because those are the lightest blues. And then I just played. With this. Here, look, I was really smart. Look what I did. I wrote saffron plus light pumpkin pumpkin pie. That's what I did on the liquid. And pool party for the glass. Then on this one, I did those same colors plus Cajun Craze, light crumb cake, and balmy blue. So when you find a combo that works well, write it down. Don't do what I did on that other one where I totally forgot and then I added too much color. All right, we're going to do this pretty quick because we are just way over an hour already. Oh, thank you. Holly says it's been very helpful. Thank you. So we are going to go with our lightest color. Should I put this? Maybe I'll put this here. I think that might help you. So the light saffron will be the lightest. And I'm going to very lightly, leaving a little bit of white, put some light saffron. Then I'm going to go with my dark saffron, and just where I really don't know, but where I thought it would be darker, I added another layer of color. And then I did pumpkin pie. Did I not? I didn't get out pumpkin pie. Here we go. Light pumpkin pie. And we're just going to put some shading, a little bit, just sort of here and there. Honestly, I didn't know what this would look like. We don't have any decanters, and I don't know what this is supposed to look like. But I just played. Then I did a little blending. Okay, and that's like all I did. Sometimes you have to just leave it and say, okay, we're going with it. So I'm trying to replicate that one, by the way. And that's all I did. That was it. So saffron and light pumpkin pie. That was it. Then on the blues, I've got the pool party. So I really didn't know, honestly, what to do with this. I did not have a decanter that I could look at. I'll have to tell you something funny, though. We've been watching the series called The Crown. Is anybody else watching that? I have never seen so much drinking and so many decanters and so many glasses of whiskey in my life. I was just kind of laughing to myself knowing that I had this live video coming up and that we were going to be talking about whiskey and glasses. I just laughed. I kept laughing every time I'm seeing them with the decanter. I'll show you right here. I thought this was a cork. I didn't know. It's actually glass. So that really shouldn't be like brown. That was my light crumb cake. It should be blue because, well, okay, it should be clear. It's glass, but in order for glass to look like glass, sometimes you have to give it a little bit of a shade of something, or else it's just white. So that's why I've got the blue. And then I believe, I can't remember for sure, but I think I might have just sort of softened those edges with my color lifter. And that's really it. Like, that's really quick and basic. You can see how quickly that went. On this one, I did the exact same thing. This one, sorry, did I point to the blank one? On this one, I did the same thing, but I added Cajun Craze and light crumb cake. And again, this is where your swatching comes in helpful because it's hard to know, right? It's like, I don't know, what should I add to give that a little richer, oranger hue? Well, it makes sense that you would add pumpkin pie to give it an oranger look. So that's that. That is what I did with that. If you have questions, I'm just going to put my colors away here and check for questions so that I can help you or answer any other questions that you have about the techniques that we went over. Yes, smoky slate would also work. You could definitely do that for your for the glass. Let's swatch that and I'll show you. So here's light smoky slate. Ooh, but see, look how dark that is. Where's the other slate? And here's dark smoky slate. I don't know if I could get that light enough for glass. Maybe. It would be good to try it though. That would be good. Thank you, Heather, for that suggestion. Maybe the light smoky slate, like just, well, hey, you know what? We can try it. It's only paper, right? Yeah, I think that would work. Yeah, you're right. Just a little bit. And you know what? Maybe with some blue. Maybe, let's try this. A little bit of light seaside spray. Ooh, this could be pretty. It's really light. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but that could be a really good combo. The slate, and I'm actually gonna draw myself a little reminder that slate and seaside spray could look really good together for the glass. Let's write that down. Slate and seaside. Excellent. Look at that. You all should help me do this more often. So let me just get out some of the things that we did, and I will answer Gay's question. She is asking, what is a good selection of colors to start with if you don't have a collection yet of blends and you are wondering what colors to buy? So I would say, number one, what project are you wanting to work on? So are you wanting to work on Christmas? Get some red and green, right? If you are needing to do flowers, get your favorite colors. Here's my Patty colors. Get your favorite colors that you would use for coloring flowers. Your palette might be totally different. You might have all the pinks and purples, which I have up here, over here in front of me. I just don't use them as often. Maybe you're wanting to do some like this. Okay, so then we talked about the colors that would go with this stamp set. It just really depends on what you are wanting to color. So determine your project first and then decide what colors you like. Get the colors you like. Like, that is my number one. Get the colors you like. Don't get colors that I used just because I used them. Get the colors you like. Yeah, so those are my tips. You are welcome, everyone. I hope this was helpful. This will be on my blog, pattystamps.com, tomorrow. So tomorrow is Saturday, December 5th. If you're looking for close-ups of these, my gnome images will be on my blog next week. I actually made cards with some of these. They will be on later, but everything else you will see on my blog tomorrow, as well as a replay of this. And it will also be on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is also Patty Stamps on YouTube. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it helped. I loved hanging out with you. I love coloring. I love sharing tips, and I hope you found them helpful as well. Thank you again, and I will see you next week. Bye.